Chapter 7. A few days later, Devon and I walked out of the small restaurant where we'd gone for dinner to discover that someone had slashed two of the tires on Devon's pickup. He calmly pulled out his PCD, dialed the police department, and reported the crime. After he disconnected the call, he turned back to me. "They're sending an officer to take the report. It shouldn't be long." He stood behind me and pulled me into his arms. He wrapped his arms around me, crossing them low on my belly, and hugged me against him. Why would someone do this? I wondered aloud. Not sure, at least I can't be certain. This isn't the first thing to happen, but it's starting to escalate. Up until now I've been ignoring it as random vandalism, but it's gone too far, for too long. I have to admit, it looks like I'm being targeted by someone. I turned around in his arms so I could look up into his face. How long has this been going on? Since shortly after I got back to town. So you've been being harassed for the last 3 months? I clarified. I wouldn't put it that way. I don't really see any other way to put it. I was getting irritated that he'd let it go on this long. Devon was saved from having to answer by Rain pulling up in his patrol truck. I hear you're having car trouble. My brothers stepped out of the pickup. I guess you could say that. Devon replied. So what's going on? Rain approached us. We came out to leave and found the truck like this. Devon indicated the tilted truck. Any idea who might have done it? Rain bent to sit on one heel. He inspected the damage to one of the slashed tires on the driver's side. Not really, Devon said. Rain, I have a few ideas, but I'd rather not go into it here. I spoke up. Rain looked up sharply, meeting my eyes. Nickie, you can't. Devon warned. It's okay, Dev, he knows. Devon looked pained, but I turned back to Rain. You didn't get this call at random, did you? No, I heard Dev's name and said I'd take it. I didn't know you'd be with him, though. I raised one eyebrow at him, not believing that. So what do I need to do? Devon asked. I want to file a police report, so there's a record of it. If you need to do something to the truck, that's fine, but if not, I need to know so I can arrange to have it towed. Just these two, not all 4? Rain confirmed. Just the tires as far as I know, I don't see any more damage. Devon replied. Rain asked all the questions he needed for his report. After we'd told him all we could, he had Devon call for a tow truck, saying that there was little the lab would be likely find out from the truck, and he offered us a ride home. We climbed into the cab of Rain's patrol truck. Devon and I squished together in the passenger's seat for the short trip. Pulling into the lot of our complex, Rain radioed in to the dispatcher that he was taking his lunch and he would be away from his truck before he came up to my apartment with us. Once inside, Rain got down to business. Tell me what's going on here, you two. His tone was all business. There's a group within the kindred that believes that non-shifters are inferior. Apparently, they've been harassing Devon since he came back. But he shifts. Rain scowled. Apparently that he shifts now doesn't matter to them, only that he didn't. It's also possible that how he came to shift still makes it a problem. All right, 2 questions. Making himself at home, Rain took a seat on the edge of the recliner, while Devon and I sat together on the couch. Why haven't you reported this before? And, can you give me the names of any members of this group? It was just a nuisance before, this is the first real damage. Devon answered the first question. I can give you one name, but you're not going to like it. I answered the second. Devon was quiet, but I could tell he didn't like me giving Rain so much information. Rain raised one eyebrow, looking at me, waiting for me to continue. Brandon's one of them. Both eyebrows lifted in surprise. You're right. I don't like it. He paused for a moment, shifting slightly in the chair, getting more comfortable. Are you still spending much time around him? Not in a while. Because of this group he's part of? Kind of. Rain waited for me to elaborate. I sighed before continuing. You know, he was there when I shifted the first time. Well, after that, he kinda got strange. Add in Devon coming back to town, and that I spent so much time with him, and Brandon got possessive. He tried to control me, and it backfired. I'll bet. I want the details, Nickie. Rain's voice was firm, determined. I knew better than to argue when he got this way. I told him about the incident of Brandon slapping me and my breaking his nose in response. When did this happen? A few weeks ago. I shrugged, not remembering exactly how long it had been. Rain didn't like the answer. He hit you weeks ago, and this is the first I'm hearing of it? I could hear the growing anger in his voice. Rain, I realize you're a police officer, and that as my brother you feel the need to protect me. I tried to calm him. But you need to understand. The Kitsune have had to live in secret for centuries. Getting the police involved in internal problems would make that secrecy difficult, to say the least, and not only because of our increased strength and healing. So, I didn't tell you about it, no. But I did tell Bill. Devon made a sound of protest from his seat beside me, and Brandon's already been punished. I laid my hand on Devon's knee. It's all right, Bill's told me I can tell Rain whatever I feel the need to. Devon covered my hand with one of his, and visibly relaxed. I knew he'd been trying to keep me out of trouble. Rain watched the exchange silently, but I knew he wasn't missing it. You know how I feel about vigilante justice. It's not vigilante justice though, Rain. I interrupted. It's more like royal rule. The king, or pack leader in this case, hears the case, makes a ruling, and orders the consequences as needed. Punishment in this case. As I was saying, Rain looked pointedly at me for interrupting him. You know how I feel about vigilante justice, but seeing as how he's still alive and walking around fine. I don't have too much to complain about, since he's already been dealt with. If you think they're the ones responsible for this, why call the police now? To document the damage, and so my insurance will cover it. Devon reasoned. Rain nodded. Devon went on. And now, if things continue to escalate, I'll be able to show a history of damages. I can take the documentation from the police to the Anikitos and have proof. Good reasoning. If it's escalated to the point of property damage, what makes you think they'll stop there? Why won't they continue as far as assault? I have no plans to let it go that far, but if it does, they'll have a fight on their hands. Unless they've got someone a lot more dominant than Brandon in the group, it'll be over quick. Unless they blindside you, gang up on you, or better yet, try to hurt you by going after Nickie. Rain countered. I don't think they'll hurt me. At least not yet. I put in. Brandon's still convinced I'm his mate, and as long as he believes that, he won't let them hurt me. Besides, growing up with you and Cam, I learned to defend myself pretty well. Be that as it may, Rain said. I'll be a lot happier when this is all over, and I don't have to worry that you're safe. Me too. I agreed. Devon nodded, quietly agreeing. No more hiding this from me. Rain scowled at both of us. If anything else happens to either of you, I want you to call me right away. Will do. I agreed. I'll get your number from Nickie and call you if anything else happens. I feel better knowing that someone outside the pack knows what's going on. Devon agreed. Now that that's settled. Rain leaned forward in the chair, resting his forearms on his knees. Tell me about the two of you. This, he motioned to where the two of us were sitting together on the couch, is new. We're seeing each other now, I said simply. I knew that. You've been bringing him to Sunday dinner, and you told Pace you're seeing him, but something tells me it's more than just dating. It's more of a mating. I gave him a brief description of kitsune mating. We're not sure where it will go, but we're not willing to throw it away just because we weren't looking for it. Rain was silent for a moment. He sat there watching us like before, but he seemed to not be seeing us anymore. After a few seconds, he spoke again. You're right, you don't want to throw it away because you weren't looking for it. Do you know something you want to tell me? I lifted one brow at him. Nothing that you need to know, just a little insight for me. He smiled. Devon looked back and forth between us, knowing he was missing something, but not sure he should ask what we were talking about. I looked at him and smiled. Do you mind if I tell him? I asked Rain. I'd rather it not be public knowledge, but you can tell him. I have to go though. My lunch is nearly over, and I still need to get something to eat. He stood, preparing to leave. Thanks for bringing us home and taking time from your lunch to make sure we're all right. I stood to walk him to the door. I hugged him before I let him leave and closed and locked the door behind him. What does Rain not want public knowledge? Devon asked from the couch as soon as the door clicked shut. I turned around, wanting to see his reaction. He's a seer. He has visions showing him bits and pieces, sometimes future, sometimes past, and from what he's told me, sometimes real time. He blinked. Well, that's different. I don't think that's a power that the kindred have. As far as I know, it's not. He gets it from his Native American blood. Apparently, his grandmother taught him to hide it from a very young age. I only found out recently when he confronted me about being a shapeshifter. He said he'd seen me shift. I thought about it for just a second. Actually, it was the day we went running on the mountain, the day you overdid it, and I doubled back for the truck. I went back to the couch and sat down facing him. He called me to his place a couple of weeks ago and confronted me about it. Said he's known about the kindred, though he didn't have the name for us for a long time. Since he doesn't want his secret out, he's kept ours too. Devon could only stare at me, at a loss for words. When I found out, I went to Bill. I told him what Rain had said, what he knew. Bill said if he's kept the secret this long, we really have no reason not to trust him. He told me I could tell Rain whatever I felt the need to. That's good. A look of relief washed across his face. I almost had a heart attack when you started telling him about pack business. I wouldn't have, without permission. But at the same time, I figured he's another pair of eyes and an outside witness if we have to take this to Bill. That's true. He leaned towards me and pulled me into his arms again. I'm sorry our date was interrupted with this. Me too, but I'm glad that now I know about your being harassed. I wish you didn't. I don't want you worrying about it. His voice softened as he buried his face in my hair, inhaling my scent. It's not that I want to worry about it, I resisted the draw of his body, so close to mine. But that I don't like secrets. I can understand that, and I'm sorry I kept it from you. I didn't mean to hide it, I just didn't think it was that important. All right. I guess I'll forgive you this once. I smiled against his neck as I turned and inhaled his scent. I could smell the tang of the pack beneath the deep smoky scent that was uniquely Devon. But we don't have to let a little interruption stop us. I gently bit the side of his neck. We would have ended up here anyway. I pulled back slightly and pressed my lips against his. Saturday afternoon, Devon and I were taking it easy. We were both off. We'd gone out for a run together as wolves early that morning, and now we were lounging beside the pool, resting from swimming laps and drying off a bit before going inside, when Brandon approached the pool area. Apparently, he'd been on his way to my apartment when he spotted us, and decided to confront us then and there. Is this why you don't return my calls? He said snidely from the other side of the fence surrounding the cemented pool deck. You're too busy lounging around the pool with the imposter? Startled, I sat up and turned to look at him. I was fed up with this. He behaved like he had some say in what I do and who I spend time with, and I wasn't taking any more. No, this isn't why I don't return your calls, I said calmly. I don't return your calls because I have nothing to say to you. I looked away, thinking that the best course would be to ignore him, to not give him the scene he was trying for. Don't turn your back on me. How dare you? You are my mate, and I won't have you hanging around with this scum. I stood and moved closer to Brandon. Not close enough he could reach through the fence and grab me, but close enough I could speak normally and not be overheard by casual passers-by. Brandon, my not returning your calls has nothing to do with Devon and everything to do with you. I looked him in the eye as I spoke, my voice quiet but firm. You've changed, Brandon, and I don't like who you've become. I don't waste my time with people who judge others on things they have no control over. People who think that they're superior simply because they have an ability that most of the world doesn't, even some unfortunate members of their own species, disgust me. And frankly, I would have thought that after 20 years of friendship, you would know that. But you're my mate. He acted like this was supposed to make a difference. No, Brandon, I'm not. I may be a potential mate for you, I have to take your word for that, but you are not one to me. I have to be. We're meant to be together. If only this imposter would stop trying to steal you away from me. He motioned to Devon. I stepped a little closer, lowering my voice even further, knowing he could still hear it. First, Devon is not an imposter. He is as kindred as you are, and probably more than I am. Any relationship I may be having with him has no impact on my relationship, or again lack thereof, with you. I am an adult. I make my own decisions about who I spend my time with and who I don't. Right now, you are on the don't list, and you'll remain there as long as you feel the need to treat me as property, or treat Devon, or any non-shifting kindred or human, as somehow less than you. Second, it's impossible for someone to steal something from you that never belonged to you. I am not, nor have I ever been yours. You can't do that, he started. Want to bet? I challenged him, stepping closer again. I watched his face turn purple, his anger growing exponentially. You're sleeping with him. I can smell it on you. I think he was trying to shock me by being blunt. I don't see how that's any of your business, Brandon. I struggled to remain calm. I think it would be best if you left now. Fine, I'll go. But I'll be back. I turned my back on him and went back to my chair. Devon watched him leave and waited until he was gone to say anything. What did he say that finally pissed you off? He was nasty about you and me. He insulted you repeatedly and then said he knew I'm sleeping with you, that he could smell it on me. I snorted, I don't care if it's true, it's tacky to say so. He nodded. Think he'll take the hint and leave you alone? I don't think so. Shaking my head, I continued. I'm going to have to go to Bill about him again. I don't want to, but he's not leaving me any other choice. That pretty much how I see it, but I was hoping you'd come to the conclusion on your own. As much as I might want to deny it, I have to face facts. I miss what our friendship used to be, but I really can't use that to justify putting up with what he's doing now. I'm sorry you have to go through this. It's not your fault. It kind of is. He's being shitty over me. If it wasn't you, he would have found something to get shitty over. Remember, he started this long before you and I were anything more than old friends getting reacquainted. No. This is all on him. Still, I don't like that it's hurting you. Devon took my hand. It's not my doing and I have no way to keep it from hurting you, but I don't have to like it. No, you don't. I smiled wryly. I like that about you. You don't feel like you have to stand in front of me and protect me from anything I might find unpleasant. You let me stand on my own. Deal with my own problems. If I stood in front of you and protected you from everything, it would be like trying to stop you from being you. He said simply. You've always been fiercely independent, even when we were kids. I always admired that about you, and I love that your folks were so good about not trying to crush it, and you, in the process. Here I spent all this time thinking that you thought of me as the bratty little sister who wouldn't leave the older kids alone. While I won't deny your ability to be bratty when you want to be, that's not at all what I thought about you. Then, now, or at any time in between. You thought about me while you were gone? I was both surprised and touched. Sometimes. There were times when I would get particularly homesick, and I would think about you, wonder what you were doing with your life. After a while, the mood would pass and I'd engross myself in my life again. I never knew. You weren't supposed to. I had no intention of ever coming back for more than a day or two, brief visits to my parents. Leaving the area and the people here was part of how I dealt with not being able to shift. Somehow, I think even then, I understood your need to be near your family, no matter how independent you might be. He squeezed my hand. I can't say I'm sorry you came back. Though I am sorry you had to get hurt and lose a career you loved in order to do it. If you hadn't, I don't know where I'd be. I'd like to think I wouldn't be spending time with Brandon, but if you hadn't come back when you did, he might not have revealed who he really is, and I could have been. I'm glad I came back too, that I reconnected with you. Not because you've given me the ability to shift, though I do appreciate that, but because I wouldn't give up what we're building together, even to go back to my old life. I pulled him toward me, meeting him in the middle, and kissed him. I'm ready to go inside, how about you? More than ready, he kissed me softly before gathering our things. Impatient for privacy, we headed for his apartment. Sunday afternoon, after thinking about it for the last 24 hours, I called Bill. I knew I needed to tell him about Brandon's attitude and his refusal to leave me alone. Brandon came by again yesterday, I said once I had Bill on the line. Bill was silent for a moment before I heard him sigh. What did he do this time? He caught Devon and I out by the pool. He confronted us out in the open. Did he endanger us? I thought back for a second. I wouldn't say so, but I'm rather glad it was so public. It kept him from being too obnoxious or turning violent again. There is that. What happened exactly? I recounted the whole event, only leaving out what Brandon had said about being able to smell Devon on me. I probably should have told Bill that part, but it was embarrassing. I wrapped the story with, the whole time I talked to him, I was careful to stay out of his reach, and I left him outside the pool fence. He would have had to work to hit me again. Bill was getting angry. I've had about enough of this. He's defied me again. I told him to stay away from you again after the last time we talked. He was frustrated and venting more than expecting me to say anything. I'm going to handle this once and for all, Bill said, calming some. You shouldn't have to worry about him anymore, Nickie. I'm going to see to that. While I have you, I had something else I wanted to talk to you about. What is it? I told him about the vandalism of Devon's truck and my suspicions that Brandon was behind it. As I expected, he said that without some kind of proof, we couldn't punish him for it. But if there is any more property damage, I want you to contact me right away, he said. I will, I promise. I meant it. I wasn't going to let it go on anymore. Do you have any leads on non-shifters for me yet? I asked. I've been looking into a few, but I really don't know where I'll be sending you yet. I'll let you know as soon as I do. That's all right, I was just curious. Thanks for your help with Brandon. No problem, Bill said. Thanks for keeping me informed about what's going on. We said our goodbyes and rang off. I was left feeling relieved. From what I understood, Bill was going to put an end to the harassment, and I honestly couldn't say I would miss it.